Good morning. This is Keloland on the go with all you need to know in news and weather as you start your day.
He's on parole, and now a convicted sex offender admits he committed yet another sex crime. 34-year-old Joshua Catrone signed federal documents admitting to messaging someone he believed to be a 15-year-old girl for sex. It turned out to be an undercover investigator.
Catrone plans to plead guilty to attempted enticement of a minor. When he's sentenced, he'll face anywhere from 10 years behind bars to life in prison. Catrone is on the sex offender registry for raping a 15-year-old girl in Minnehaha County in 2016. The Department of Corrections website says he is on active parole. A South Dakota nurse will not serve prison time for tampering with powerful medication that was supposed to be used for patients. In 2021, 55-year-old Lisa Merrigan tampered with a vial of fentanyl citrate while working at a Chamberlain hospital.
She removed the medication and replaced most of it with saline solution, knowing the diluted fentanyl could be given to patients. A judge sentenced her to 2 years probation. We checked the South Dakota Board of Nursing website, and it still lists her as an active nurse. Hundreds of hay bales caught fire at a farm northeast of Millbank. Grant County Emergency Management says it happened just after 1 o'clock Wednesday afternoon. Authorities shared these photos of the scene. You can see a hay shed also damaged in the fire. Heavy equipment was also used to tear the bales apart.
Officials say around 300 to 325 bales were burned. Crews from Corona and Big Stone were called in to help. Around 180,000 gallons of water was used to fight the fire. It had to be brought to the scene from Millbank.
Now let's send it over to meteorologist Brian Karstens. Good morning, Brian.
Yes, good morning, guys. Good morning, everybody. Weather today, well, some showers and a few thunderstorms will try to develop as we watch a frontal system pressing through. We've got highs in the 80s ahead of that. Sioux Falls, 82, Huron, 85, Rapid City, a little cooler at 73, and mid-60s in Custer. Now, that rain chance will be upon us here for about the next 12 to 24 hours, so we're going to look at that, and then also maybe some more rain coming our direction next week. We'll get to that subject in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Brian. Earlier this year, the Sioux Falls School District cut gymnastics from its budget. Now 10 young gymnasts are part of a lawsuit questioning whether the Sioux Falls School District violated Title IX. It claims school board members were told they could cut gymnastics because the district had added softball and girls wrestling.
The lawsuit is asking for a temporary injunction to stop the district from selling any equipment while the case makes its way through court. We reached out to the school district, and a spokesperson told us the district will not be talking about pending litigation. At this point, the district has not filed a response in court. You can read the full lawsuit on Keloland.com. Chemist Doug Rainey, who up until June was a professor at SDSU, tells us it would be likely safe for people to be around the taxidermy at the now closed Delbridge Museum of Natural History, provided that there's some distance between the taxidermy and the public.
Arsenic has been detected in the taxidermy. He says that long-term glass should be in front of the taxidermy. Arsenic exists naturally, but the element can be harmful to people.
In high quantities, it can have the effects of a carcinogen. Is that an accurate way for the layman to conceive of it?
Yeah, so there's a famous saying in toxicology that the dose makes the poison. That everything is poisonous. It's just a matter of how large of dose that you have.
Rainey says that if someone were to touch the taxidermy, they should wear personal protective equipment. The Sioux Falls City Council was set to vote on designating the collection as surplus next week. However, Council Chair Marshall Selberg tells Keloland News he thinks that vote is going to be delayed. Well, drivers are starting to feel some pain at the pump. At one gas station we stopped at, a gallon of regular gas is almost $4.
Oil prices have been climbing since the end of June after mostly falling for a year. But the question remains, will we see any relief anytime soon?
We're seeing some refinery issues. Some refineries have gone under maintenance, which is removing some of the supply from the upper Midwest. And that kind of shook the market the middle of last week and created some concern over supply leading into the winter months. We believe it's short term, but that doesn't mean that we're not feeling the pain at the pump.
AAA says there are a number of ways to save fuel while driving. We've attached a link under this story on KELOLAND.com.
Let's look at some of our top stories.
Now let's get one last look at your weather with meteorologist Brian Karstens. Brian?
All right, weather today. Well, let's keep an eye on radar, see if we get some showers and thunderstorms to brew up. I think there'll be clusters of that activity from the southwest, and then you kind of trace the lines up toward Aberdeen. That's just kind of a general zone where these things can pop up. There's probably going to be a little more focus line, though, that's going to occur a little bit ahead of that, and that would be right now centered. I would say let's put Mitchell into this, and you can see a diagonal toward Brookings or Watertown. Sioux Falls, yeah, we could see some thunderstorms too in the middle of that as we get into the early evening hours. So I do think that that's something worth your attention as we close out the day part forecast. Now, that rain chance tonight will tend to move east, and then of course we'll see how much of that new development we can spark through Friday morning. There's still a chance of rain Friday morning in Sioux Falls and Yankton. I would say if you're northwest of a Watertown to Winterline, your chances of rain are going to be less at that point. And then by late Friday morning, even northwest Iowa will start to clear out. There is a conditional chance of a couple of stray showers Saturday morning. We've got a northwest pattern coming in, and that's going to be refreshing. The numbers are going to feel great in the 70s. But just given that fact, I do want to at least mention that verbally, that Saturday morning, parts of eastern KELOLAND still could see a shower. By that point, the big headline on weather is going to be that hurricane in New England. That's going to cause a lot of havoc up there, Maine and New Hampshire and Massachusetts. You're going to hear about that. Here, well, there's our little trough feature for the weekend. Again, I wouldn't count on a whole lot of rain with that in our region, but the northwest winds will make it feel pretty nice. It'll be in the 70s. Next, it starts quiet next week, but let's start watching a structural change to the jet stream. Wednesday, possibly, but Thursday, Friday. This is a pretty interesting weather map. We've got a low pressure area here in the southwest. We've got the Gulf of Mexico opening up. We have probably the elements of widespread rain chances from Canada all the way to Texas. These are different talking points. We haven't had a system like this in a long time. I would venture to say you got to go all the way back prior to the beginning of the summer. Okay, so remember that. I think that we're going to have some things to talk about as we get into next week. But that's mostly after the 7-day forecast. Up until then, more of what we've had traditionally this summer, which is basically these clusters of scattered rain. And that's on the agenda here tonight and late this afternoon for Sioux Falls. 82 the high, south wind 15 to 25. Rain chance tomorrow morning. And then once that departs, will be effectively dry into early next week. Saturday morning is still a slight chance something might pop up. I am inclined to say more 80s, though, next week, Monday, Tuesday. If that system slows down, Wednesday might even be in the 80s. Aberdeen is going to follow the same thinking here, basically a little cooler to start the weekend. And then any rain really beyond the 24-hour period starting now, we'll have to wait until day number 7. And then Pierre and Rapid will join the pack, and we'll see what happens there. But that, again, could be a very interesting story. There could be a lot more moisture coming our direction. Take a look at those details. We've got more information online at KELOLAND.com.